I'm an American in Moscow, Russia. I live here with my Russian wife and 5 children. This is our neighborhood, and this is our metro stop behind us. And just 3 stops away from this metro stop, less than 24 hours ago, there was a terrorist attack in Moscow, Russia. In this video, I'm going to speak to a retired law enforcement officer and also a foreigner from Europe and a woman who works for BRICS, who is Russian and of Polish descent. And we are going to give you the facts that we know so far. Our hearts go out to the victims of this tragedy, of course. It is a sad day in Russia, hopefully a sad day for the world. And we do this report with a heavy heart. You know, what I wanted to say first is my wife is Russian, and I asked her if she wanted to come on. She said, no, definitely not. It's too hard for her. She actually, according to her memory, was in the first attack that happened in Moscow about 30 years ago. And, you know, she could be wrong. This is just what she recalls. She's not a historian on this, that she was living with her widowed mother as a student. And apparently there was an explosion in their elevator that ended someone's life and threw her apartment door through the apartment, which could have easily been the end of her or her mother. And whenever she hears of another incident like this, it just brings, you know, whatever trauma she has from it. Not saying that her trauma is just as bad as some other people's trauma, but she does have trauma enough that she feels like she can never cover this subject. So I say all that just to, try to help humanize this thing. Because if you're not living in Moscow, if you haven't had hard times like this in your life, it's very easy just to read a news report and just read, so many people have been hurt. And this is the details, and that's it. And then you just read it and you move on with your life. But I think it's important to remember that these are real people. Life can be very challenging sometimes. And people just like you, just like me, with families and hopes and fears.
Well, what we know is that approximately 8 p.m. on Friday evening, 5 armed men entered the Crocus City Hall and opened fire on unarmed civilians. And there are also reports that they set off some incendiary devices, which caused a fire. Now, Crocus City Hall is located in, it's actually outside of Moscow. It's in Krasnogorsk. This is in Moscow region. And if you're not familiar with Crocus, it is a large multi-event exhibition center. So they host concerts, conferences, receptions, and the like. And it's actually quite large. And I read that the maximum capacity was 9,500 people. And what we know so far, and this is maybe about an hour old, and I was reading news from RIA Novosti, which is considered to be one of the premier news outlets in Russia. And they're reporting 115 casualties. This is people who were killed. And there's still a number of wounded. And what we do know is that rescue personnel are still on scene, and they're still in rescue mode. They're not in recovery mode. And this is good news, because this means that they're actively searching for victims. And there's still hope that they can maybe find victims who may be under rubble and are still alive. So it's still quite an active scene at Crocus. And as a first responder, I'm having a lot of flashbacks to incidents that I've responded to. And I've kind of going through those memories as well. So quite well aware of what those rescuers and emergency personnel on scene are going through.
I had just filmed a show with my 2 little kids, my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old, with Pavel.
and we were at an event with a little concert and lot full of people, and it was crowded, and it was inside a Kremlin, so we were completely like blocked in, except for one gate that was not padlocked. And we did this just a few days ago, after warnings had already gone out, that you should be careful, or that, I guess the US and UK was warning Westerners they need to be careful here. And we went there and did our fun show and had a great time. And it didn't even cross my mind, but that totally could have been, we could have been in that situation, in that specific spot. I mean, so, and last night, when I posted that show, I looked and I realized, because I kind of have an idea of how my shows are going to do, and I knew this show was intriguing and interesting, and I expected it would do well. And I saw the numbers were down because I posted a little bit after 8 o'clock, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And then people started commenting in the show, "Did you hear what happened? Are you okay?" And then I was like, I see. So yes, that's why. That's what's going on. Something's happening here.
11 suspects have been detained, and along with 4 of the actors from the attack last night. It's unsure exactly where these individuals were apprehended. I believe this is near the country that we won't mention.
Right.
And these individuals may have been attempting to escape out of Russia. And they were apprehended by Russian police. And there was also a video of an interrogation with one of these suspected attackers. He claims that he entered Moscow from Turkey on March 4th. And this is from an interrogation. It's on RIA Novosti on their Telegram channel. You can find it there. But he claims in the interrogation that he was offered 500,000 rubles to carry out this attack.
When you get the report of how many people are no longer with us, it's good to remember that there's usually often many, many, many more people that are still with us, but have lifetime injuries, handicapped, crippling injuries that you can only imagine. So it's not just this many people are gone. For every person that's gone, there's many more people that are severely injured forever. And on top of that, everyone who knows these people that are injured or gone, that need to deal with that trauma for a long time. So it's a very, very, very big deal.
It makes sense to me why they would want to target a place such as Crocus. And the first is right in front of Crocus City Mall is MCAD. And this is a major ring road, as I call it, here in Moscow. And it's a quick, easy way, especially if you're in a vehicle, to get in a vehicle, get on MCAD, and get out of town, so to speak. If they were to attempt this type of attack anywhere within the city of Moscow, an escape would be nearly impossible. And that is because I believe the first thing they would do is shut down the metro. They would stop all public transportation, including taxis. You simply can't go anywhere. And the fact that this was conducted right outside of Moscow with easy access to MCAD, now kind of armchair quarterbacking, it kind of makes sense why they chose this particular venue to target.
Yeah. And I've seen, some of the footage of them doing the terrible things, and it's awful, and I would think that even a bad guy like that would be nervous, or kind of like anxiously quick or concerned. But what I saw was guys that just it was like nothing. They were just kind of casually, nonchalantly wandering through. doing these terrible things. Yeah, it's just very, very interesting.
It's not human nature to act in such an aggressive manner. You have to be conditioned to carry out attacks such as this. Nobody's really born like this. So obviously a lot of training, a lot of psychological probably manipulation, but we can assume that these people were properly groomed and trained to do something terrible like this.
Yeah, another thing I think of is, because you and I just did the video a couple weeks ago on weapons in Russia, for sport and for practice and at a range. We talked about the Second Amendment and, what are the rules in Russia versus the rules in other countries. I can't help but think about, the fact that, like, if you're from Texas, and if you're a bad guy in Texas and you go into a restaurant, a Cracker Barrel or something like that, and your intent is perhaps to harm, you're looking around and that probably a third of all the men you have to expect are concealed carry. And from what I understand, the statistics are that, there's less crime in these states versus other states, because as a bad guy, you just, you know what I'm saying? You know that there's not a good chance you're going to be able to get away with anything at all.
Absolutely. And for some of my female friends back in Texas, females are known to carry as well.
Right. So, and in Russia, it is the gun laws are stricter, but yet these guys had this stuff. So, do you know how that works? I mean, in light of that episode that we just shot a couple of weeks ago, and understanding about Russian gun laws, I can almost with certainty say that these men did not acquire these weapons in Russia or from a Russian source, unless that source was compromised. But most likely, they probably brought these weapons in at some point. Okay. So, like, illegally smuggled in somehow.
Illegally smuggled in, because these types of weapons they're not even sold to civilians or anyone in Russia. Fully automatic weapons are not for sale in Russia. So this type of weapon had to be brought in from somewhere else.
We are on this metro line, my family and I. We are 3 metro stops away. So thankfully, when we heard about it, my wife and my 2 youngest were already at home with me, so I know they were cool. But there was, a good 15 minutes or so when we were trying to contact different people we know and ask them if they're okay, especially, our 3 adult children. And we luckily were able to hear that they were all right pretty quickly. But Alex, for example, he told me, he's like, I've been to that place. I have gone to events there, so and a YouTuber that I work with a lot, he's 1 metro stop away. And he kept telling me throughout the night, I see the fire, I see the helicopters, they're trying to dump water on the building and stop it. And it doesn't seem like they're able to stop it. Do you know yet, Eddie, if they were able to stop the fire, if the building is recoverable at all, or is it over?
Yeah, the latest reports that I've seen in some of the video that was shot earlier today, there's no active fire. The fire is out. However, there is substantial damage, and there's also the risk of the roof collapsing due to the fire and the explosions. So there's crews still on scene. They're assessing that situation, but it's a lot. The damage is much more significant than just people hurt and people killed. There's also a lot of physical damage to the building.
So how much is that? So you take 2 zeros off the end to get a rough idea.
So it's approximately about $5,500 US dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh. It's like so sad. So sad. Like, what is your price? It's just awful. Awful.
I don't want to give an opinion on this platform. Not about this. We want to be right.
Right. Very good. I'm glad you said that too. Because we want to be right, and we want to not only to watch our words carefully for the algorithm, but for our own character and our own hearts and our own minds. We want to be careful and straight with you. And it is not easy for me to do this show right now. And it's probably not easy for Eddie either. It's not what we want to do. What I wanted to do, I did last night with my funny, exciting show. That's what I want to be doing, not this. I do not want to be covering tragedy. I want to look away. My temptation is to just go quiet for about a week and wait till this blows over and then do my next funny show. It is not easy. And, I asked several people to come on, and they declined, and I completely understand, because it is a hard subject. And on top of that, we have to be careful how we say for the algorithm as well.
And for our viewers in the West, we are somewhat desensitized to events like this because, unfortunately, they happen quite often. We Westerners have grown accustomed to tragedy, mass shootings and mass casualty. And you have to understand from the Russian perspective of how shocking this really is, because this just doesn't occur.
Someone else has a question that I guess I'm not going to put on the screen. Say what you can, which might be nothing, but is there any like solid ideas of who would be benefiting from funding these guys? Eddie.
Yeah, in a geopolitical sense, of course. You could also ask the question, who does not benefit from carrying out this type of attack? And if you weigh those two questions within yourself, you can pretty much narrow that down. You can narrow your answer down. And that's as far as I'm going to say about that.
What would you say to Americans and others still thinking of visiting Russia? Do you have words of reassurance? So that's a good question, and I'm very glad you asked it, Svetlana. So I came here initially because it was cheaper for my kids to go to university, and my wife was homesick. But I am personally a Christian, so I like traditional family values. I have lots of kids. So I've realized in my 2 years being here, this is for me a wonderful place, a place with traditional family values, a place that's functional and orderly, and people have deep, meaningful relationships with each other. And I think, whether they know it or not, they're living in a way that would make God happy. And so, like I've said before, even if the worst thing happens to this place and NATO tanks are rolling down the streets, I am not sorry that I came here. I have done the right thing coming here in raising my children in a place that is pointed in the right direction, that is leaning towards God, that is leaning towards traditional family values. This is where it is best for me to be. I'm still so very glad that I came here. This incident is a terrible, terrible tragedy, but in no way does it move my heart or mind to say to myself, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have come here. No way, not for one moment, not for one bit of a second. And for Westerners and English speakers that are out there thinking that maybe Russia is a good place to move, and now they've heard this and they're wondering. You just got to think about what your motivation is and what you think is best for you. For me, this would not move me one way or another, because I try to stay centered on what is the right thing to do, not what is the comfortable thing to do. Just as far as being statistically safe, I don't know that there's a statistical safe difference either way you cut it. I could be wrong, but I definitely have felt like it's more dangerous to live in the U.S. than to live here. Terror is terror for a reason. It is, yes, people are hurt and people are no longer with us, physically hurt and no longer with us. But that is a very small fraction of all the people that are then terrorized in their heart as they read the story and think about what happened and wonder, could this have happened to me? Could this have happened to my family, my kids? And that is the whole point, because the bad guys cannot do this to everybody. They can only do this to a very tiny amount of people. And so they do it in a way that is flamboyant and awful, so that everyone else, all of us, have the terror. And so that's the real goal, is to put it in our hearts and in our head all over this country or all over the world. And it's important that we not let them do that, that we carry on our lives as we would have. And of course, be mournful and to, have the victims in our hearts and our prayers, but we must continue to go on and live as we did before, and make the most of life as we did before. So do you still want to travel to Russia?
Yeah, somebody asked me that as well, and I said that's like usually and like always, that's the only place I really want to be geographically at. So yeah, nothing changed. Nothing changed. Didn't even come to my mind. It's unfortunately that's just the reality. But also, one thing is that's I've said many times. I think Russia, even after this events, horrific events, Russia is still probably the safest place, like in whole Europe, probably. I don't know, in many ways. So, and these events can happen anywhere. It's just you have to put it in a perspective. Small country, not naming any names, some crazy person can just grab a knife and start killing people. I'm not like this happened in a place where I'm arriving from. So it can happen anywhere, unfortunately, in these days. But magnitude is, of course, a bit bigger right now. Not even a bit in Moscow. But did I answer the question? But yeah, I don't feel unsafe, even though I guess in general, anywhere you go, there's a risk nowadays.
You did. No, you answered it. Thank you.
I was a little bit hesitant whether I should wear my kokoshnik or not, because it's a little bit festive. But I decided that even though Russia is, mourning, we are grieving, but Russian spirit stays strong. And what they are doing, they are coming after us, after our identity. So yeah, Russia will stay strong, and they cannot defeat us, not physically, not morally. So here I am, Russian, being Russian as fork. It brings so many memories back. Also, it just happens. That both me and my mom, on two separate occasions, we survived terrorist bombing attacks in the center of Moscow, and one was next to National Hotel National, right, at the Red Square. I think maybe 2003. And another one was in the Pushkinskaya metro station. So some of my classmates from the university died in this terrorist attack. And for whatever reason, this is the only time I decided to choose not the usual exit from the metro. I would use it for maybe 5 years. And this exact day of the bombing, I decided, I don't know why, just something didn't let me go this exit. I chose another one, and there was this kind of like cluster bombing, I would say. Like, we used to have this problem that women would go in a suicide bombers. They would have these belts on them under their clothes with metal balls in it. So it was, the bomb would go off by a telephone call, and not just the bomb, but like people, like, I don't know, like 100 meters around you would get hurt. Actually, we were giving an interview about our trip to Belgrade last week, and I was showing our Brazilian journalist that in the Hotel Nacional, there are still spots in the marble that is like holes that is still there, like 20 plus years after. They just, like, filled it in with something. So they decided, I guess they decided not to change the whole marble plate,
Right.
to remember. And there is this small monument to commemorate. And what they're trying to do now, they're going, they're trying to bring down our spirits, but they will not succeed. And if anything, Russians are not scared. We are like, we're not scared. It brings us even more together, united we stand.
Right.
It makes us angry, and you do not poke the bear. You've already woken up the bear, but you do not go and make the bear angry.
I started this channel over a year ago, and the idea was to show the West, show English speakers around the world that Russia is a normal place, to humanize Russia, so that they understand, so that you understand, the world understands that Russia is a place of families living and working and going about their normal lives together. And I think it helps to humanize, and I think it helps to bring peace. And usually the videos are fun and entertaining, but I want to show the truth in every form. So unfortunately, that would be this video today. So please have this situation in your prayers, and thanks for watching. Oh, go! Осторожно! Молодец! Careful, careful! Hooligan! Can you swing normally? Oh, go. Это мокрое.